This is the city of Bountiful, with beautiful homes and gardens located on the edge of the Great Western Desert. Bountiful is one of 17 communities in Davis County, the fastest growing area in Utah. During the next few moments, you will see how water, the life-giving substance, has made this possible. Before the pioneers came to Bountiful in September of 1847, it was generally believed that nothing could be grown in this area. But like many pioneer settlements along the Wasatch Front, Bountiful is close to the mountains and close to water. From these nearby canyons, the first settlers brought water into the valley for their crops and animals. They knew very little about irrigation methods, yet these courageous people learned through trial and error as they attempted to grow enough food to keep alive. In this part of Utah, most of our rain and snowfall comes during winter and spring. Except for an occasional thunder shower, little or no moisture falls during the summer and early fall. While there is plenty of water during the spring runoff, by midsummer the stream flow is greatly reduced. And during low water years, many streams run dry. Occasionally, in early times, there was not enough water by the end of summer to keep the crops green until harvest time. For many years, simple diversion dams and ditches were used to carry the water down into the valley. Some of your parents may remember taking a water turn. Since there wasn't enough water in the ditch for everyone to use at the same time, a family took its share of water by turn. Quite often, the water turn would come in the middle of the night. As Davis County grew, better methods had to be found. As a result of World War II, new industry and military bases were established in Davis County. The sudden increase in jobs brought many people to live here. Where once there had been orchards and fields, thousands of new homes were built. Many people wanted to build on land where water had been unavailable, and there wasn't any more water in the canyons. In low water years, Davis County had already experienced water shortages. Adding to the problem, more industry came to Davis County. Oil refineries, like these plants in Woods Cross and North Salt Lake, consume 10 gallons of water for each gallon of gasoline they produce. The only solution was to bring in water from the high Uinta Mountains to the east. Community leaders worked together, and a marvelous plan called the Weber Basin Project was born. Planning began in 1942, but was delayed until after World War II. By this time, the increased need for water was far beyond earlier estimates. By 1949, plans were completed that would conserve and put into use nearly all the water in Weber Basin. Wells and even small canyon streams along our foothills to the east would be utilized. The cost was so great that our federal government agreed to help. Congress approved, and a law establishing the Weber Basin Reclamation Project was signed by the President on August 29, 1949. It would take 20 years of work and over $100 million to complete it. Let's see how the Weber water comes to us and how we make use of it. First, we will have to travel over our Wasatch Mountains to the slopes of the Uintas, where rain or snow falls in these forests nearly every day of the year. The snowpack from September through April accumulates to 12 feet or more. In these beautiful mountain areas, we see beginnings of hundreds of small streams which flow into the mountain valleys to form the Weber and Ogden rivers. This is where it all begins. The water we use comes from here, the Weber Basin drainage area. This is why it is called Weber water. Every year, from April through June, tremendous quantities of water in flooding torrents wash down these streams. Warmer weather during these months gradually melts the snow, and we see the spectacular result, the spring runoff. Before the Weber Basin project, very little of this precious water was saved for use in the late summer. It coursed down the canyons and emptied into the Great Salt Lake. By constructing dams in strategic places, this once-a-year excess of water could be accumulated and stored in huge reservoirs like this one behind Echo Dam near Colville in Summit County. It was built by the Bureau of Reclamation in 1930 to catch the spring runoff from the Weber River and to provide flood control. The next time you're riding through Weber Canyon on the freeway, you can see the face of this earth-filled dam at the Echo Canyon Junction. East Canyon Dam is located just 15 miles east of Bountiful in Morgan County. This concrete arch structure is 265 feet high and 440 feet across. It varies in thickness from 7 feet at the top to 20 feet at the bottom. The first dam was constructed here in 1896. As the need for more water increased, larger and higher dams were built. This new structure is the 5th dam to be built at this site. Immediately behind the new dam, now covered over by water, is an older, smaller dam. If you travel to East Canyon in late summer or fall when the water level is lower, look for it, and you may be able to see the old dam. The East Canyon Reservoir, extending for many miles behind the dam, has provided good fishing and boating for many years. One of the several earth-filled dams in the Weber Basin project is Pineview Dam at the top of Ogden Canyon. It was recently enlarged and is now 90 feet high and about 600 feet across the top. An unusual feature of Pineview is the presence of 48 flowing wells underneath the reservoir, which supply much of Ogden City's water. The dam holds behind it the waters of the Ogden River, which form this beautiful large lake near Huntsville. This is a choice recreation area with fine camping and boating facilities. It is also enjoyed by thousands of Utahns every year. Other storage facilities in the Weber Basin project, such as Causey Reservoir on the Ogden River above Pineview, and Lost Creek Reservoir northeast of Croydon in Morgan County, are earthen dams raised from the canyon floor by filling in with dirt and rocks. The outer layer of rocks protects the dam against erosion. A thick inner layer of clay prevents seepage. Although the water storage capacities of these mountain reservoirs is considerable, by far the largest in the Weber Basin project is the Willard Reservoir, which has converted a shallow bay of the Great Salt Lake into a freshwater lake. Willard Dam is actually an earthen dike, 36 feet high and 15 miles long, designed to float on the old lake bed. The surface of the dike is protected from eroding waves by this covering of huge boulders taken from mountains nearby. A state park has been established here, and the reservoir became a very popular fishing and boating spot. This reservoir is kept filled by the Willard Canal, which carries water out to Willard Bay at those times during the year when there is more water in the Weber and Ogden rivers than can be stored in the mountain reservoirs or used at higher elevations. Just before the canal empties into Willard Bay, its water flow is controlled at this structure. As the water is released by these giant head gates, it spills into a lower canal and flows a few hundred feet to the reservoir. These concrete baffles measure about 3 feet square and are designed to slow the force of the water and prevent erosion of the lower canal and dikes. Perhaps some of you have been wondering how the water is taken out of Willard Bay Reservoir when it's needed. During the irrigation season, water is raised and pumped backward along the same canal by pumps in this building, which lift the water 45 feet. Electricity used at this pumping station and others along the canals comes from power stations on the high mountain dams of the project. Consequently, the electrical energy generated by the Weber River as it flows downstream is used to pump the stored water back upstream to the croplands in lower portions of the valley. With 215,000 acre-feet of fresh water, Willard Bay Reservoir has more than twice the water storage of Pineview Reservoir. Willard Bay is a significant part of the Weber Basin project. Because it was planned and constructed many years ahead of actual need, it will provide a vast reserve for our future water needs. There is no substitute for water. In the very near future, we will appreciate the security and benefits from this water. Close to its source in the Uintas, the Weber River is retained behind this large earthen dam, 156 feet high and more than 2,000 feet long. Called One Ship Dam, it is located between Camas and Colville in Summit County. An important feature of the dam is this small automatic power plant seen just to the right of the spillway at the base of the dam. Electricity produced here and at Gateway Power Plant further downstream is used indirectly to operate all the large pumps used in the project. Has anyone been fishing or water skiing on Rockport Lake? Completed in 1957, One Ship Dam formed this beautiful lake. We can begin to see many recreational benefits made possible from the Weber Basin project. It should be noted that farmlands near these mountain reservoirs were at one time covered with sagebrush. Due to the plentiful water supplied from Causey, Lost Creek, and One Ship reservoirs, thousands of acres of croplands are green and fertile throughout the growing season. Miles downstream, water released from One Ship Dam is joined by many smaller rivers that feed the Weber. Here, about 4 miles below Morgan, the Weber River reaches Stoddard Diversion Dam. This concrete structure, fitted with 4 large gates, diverts into a canal the amount of water needed for our use in Davis and Weber counties. The rest of the Weber River continues on its regular course and eventually empties into Willard Bay Reservoir in the Great Salt Lake. As water is diverted from the river, It flows through an iron gate, which picks up large floating objects, such as tree limbs. Then the water goes through a fish screen, and through this bay of 4 self-cleaning revolving screens designed to keep trash from entering the canal. This is a closer view of one of the screens. Here is the start of the Gateway Canal. Except for this first section, the canal is made of concrete. It is 35 feet wide at the top. The sides slope to a 10-foot width at the bottom. The water is 8 feet deep. The canal leads along the foothills of Weber Canyon for 8.5 miles, where most of the water disappears into this mountain at Gateway Tunnel. The end of the canal and these structures where the Gateway Tunnel begins are several hundred feet up the mountainside from the Weber River. In this scene, water to the left is being diverted to the tunnel, while water in the trough feeds into this graceful rolling spillway. The spillover is not wasted. It rejoins the Weber River here at the bottom of the spillway and flows to Willard Bay Reservoir, where the surplus water is stored. Adjacent to the spillway at the bottom of the canyon is the second automatic power plant used to generate electricity for pumping stations in the valley below. The Gateway Tunnel is 9 feet in diameter and concrete lined. It extends through the mountain for more than 3 miles, where it comes out into this control structure overlooking the mouth of Weber Canyon. At this point, the water is turned into the Weber Aqueduct, which goes northwest to Ogden, and into the Davis Aqueduct, extending south for 23 miles, nearly to Salt Lake City. An aqueduct is a large pipeline made of concrete sections laid in trenches and covered. The Davis Aqueduct winds up and down through many canyons and along the west face of the Wasatch Mountains. Feeder lines tap into it for every community from Layton, Kaysville, Farmington, Centerville, to Bountiful, and all other communities in the South Davis area. Since the aqueduct is covered over, we can only see the fill in the trench, but the pipe starts out 7 feet in diameter, narrowing to about 2 feet at the south end. We can see how large these sections of pipe are inside. Here is a view of broken sections that rolled down the mountain during construction. Note the small pre-cut hole where feeder lines can be connected. To carry such large quantities of water above populated areas, a buried aqueduct was decided upon. Moreover, the steep rolling terrain along these benchlands in Davis County would make a canal difficult, if not impossible, to construct. Water we use in our homes comes from the Davis Aqueduct. But first, it passes through one of the 3 treatment plants that were built as part of the Weber Basin project. These plants, one in Ogden, one in Layton, and one in Bountiful, provide safe, sparkling, clean water to 26 communities and 3 large military installations in Weber and Davis counties. Modern water treatment plants like this one on Hillfield Road can process millions of gallons of water daily to sell to the communities nearby. Bountiful City, for example, buys the treated water and mixes it with water from local wells before piping it to the individual homes. We pay only $3 per month for water used in the home. This is the minimum charge for 10,000 gallons of treated water. It may surprise you to know that many homes with families of 5 or more often use over 10,000 gallons of water in the course of a month. We can appreciate that our water comes to us directly from nearby mountains. We are privileged to be able to use it first. Finally, the water used in our yards and on irrigated farmland is what we refer to as Weber water. It does not go through a treatment plant and consequently never enters our homes. This high-pressure irrigation water comes directly from the Davis Aqueduct and is stored during the irrigation season, April through October, in open reservoirs like this one. Located along the bench from Hillfield to North Salt Lake are 22 of these open reservoirs used to equalize pressure. Each holds a 24-hour supply. They are filled by remote control, and the water level of each reservoir is automatically monitored on this control panel at treatment plant number 3 in Layton. In case of an emergency, such as an earthquake, it's good to know that this water is in reserve, in addition to the treated water stored in covered reservoirs. Weber water is distributed around the valley through pipes entirely separate from the system that delivers our drinking water. Here, Weber water comes out of the ground at a familiar red tap. As we all know, these taps are painted red as a warning not to drink this water. Since Weber water is untreated, you may become ill if you drink from this source. We should watch out for small children who might innocently take a drink from a hose or tap connected to the Weber irrigation water. Today, as we travel between Salt Lake and Ogden, we see fewer open spaces. More homes, schools, churches, and shopping centers are being built. More industry will come to Davis County because of our abundant supply of water. We have seen how the Weber Basin project has met our growing need for water. Growth in the years ahead, as well as the good living we enjoy today, is possible only because those who came before us had the foresight and the courage to plan for the future. To them, we owe our thanks.